A reading from the first letter of Timothy. If you give these instructions to brothers and sisters, you will be a good steward of Christ Jesus, as you feed yourselves spiritually on the words of faith and true teaching which you have followed. But keep away from godless legends, which are not worth telling. Keep yourself in training for a godly life. Physical exercise has some value, but spiritual exercise is valuable in every way, because it promises life both in the present and for the future. This is a true saying to be completed, completely accepted and believed. We struggle and work hard because we have placed our hope in the living God, who is the Savior of us all, especially for those who believe. Paul believes that the spiritual life is like a race. We must stretch, struggle, agonize, have speed bumps, hit the wall, and for the long haul, we better have a spirituality or we will peter out. We will give in discouragement, despair, destruction, darkness, or some form that will get us off the course to salvation. We are striving for salvation every day of our lives, throughout our entire lives. When I was 33 years of age, the year Christ died for our salvation, I rigorously began training for the Pittsburgh Marathon for the first time. I went through classes. I listened to other marathon runners, what food I was to take. I went to see my doctor so that I could be prepared to run the marathon. But the most telling thing was not that I finished the marathon, but that there were about 100 people along the course of the marathon who cheered me on, who called out my name, who called out my number, and that I raised almost $10,000 at St. Thomas More Parish that I was for the school that I taught there every day. They kept spurring me on, and they told us that when you run a marathon, whatever anyone gives you, take it, or you won't make it to the end. If they give you water, if they give you a Gatorade, if they give you a banana, if they give you an orange, if they give you ice, or you will not make it. And I thought to myself, on April 1st, a passion of my whole life, my knee blew out on Montour Trail. And something so sacred to me since cross-country days at Bishop Canterman High School and Brashear High School were in jeopardy. And so I went to see an orthopedic doctor, Dr. Stephen Rebar at Sewickley, and he said, "Father, I know faith is your passion because you were in my parish at Our Lady of Fatima. And I knew then running was your passion." And he said, "I have faith in you, and I ask that you have faith in me, Father. And by midsummer, you're going to be back running again." But it's going to take some steps to get there, and I don't want you to be impatient. You've had a setback. And so I went through physical therapy, I had different therapists, week in and week out. Exercises I never knew of, way to stretch, to get stronger. And I learned more from the person-to-person encounter of the people that I met at the therapy sessions. Doctors and nurses, policemen, and flight attendants. We were all on common ground. We had some ailments. We had some setback. We had some suffering. And we had to stretch again. To stay spiritually fit in our world today, I believe we need to stay focused, fit, fed, freed, and fulfilled on a daily basis. It's like turning your sprinkler system on. If you don't turn it on daily, it's not going to grow. The grass is going to get hard. Oh, then you can try after a few days or a few weeks. But faith has to be a consistent pattern in our lives. It can't be irregular. It can't be sporadic. It can't be when you get to it. It can't be when you feel like it. I have to work out every day, physically, emotionally, spiritually. May I add financially, and socially, and friendshiply. I believe our world has a great spiritual hunger, and it always has. Because God has planted that hunger in each of our souls. We hunger for the living God, and our Christian vocation is to live completely honestly and openly and lovingly with joy what God's grace provides for us in our freedom to respond to be spiritual disciples. Are we spiritually equipped for the temptations of life, the challenges of life, the struggles of life? Are we just surviving right now in a maintenance mode, or are we thriving? At this point in my life, at 53, my expectations, I have low expectations and high hopes. What I mean by that is, I don't have unrealistic, grandiose idealisms, because Pope Francis says that salvation isn't in ideas, salvation isn't in numbers, salvation is in souls. What happens in our lives when we hit the wall? The decisions that we make break us rather than make us, destroy us rather than fulfill us, bring darkness rather than light. We all know the dialectic of the greatest polarities in the world take place in the human heart of good and evil. And the propensity to keep our demons in check is difficult for all of us. So I want to try to help you spiritually stretch by looking at 11 or 12 ways that have assisted me. Number one is security. Daring to set boundaries and having the courage to love ourselves even when we have to risk disappointing other people. Boundaries. Good fences make good neighbors. One has the ability to say no to something, to say yes to something else. Jesus himself said in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5:37, say yes when you mean yes, and say no when you mean no. Anything else comes from the devil. We live in a world that's always on the fence. Well, I'll see if I can get a better date before I commit to you. So we live in this whamby-pamby, maybe world of uncommitment. There's a book, Dare to Commit, Say Yes in a Maybe World, by a Jesuit, Father James Torrance. He wrote many years for American Magazine. But he tells the story of a cardinal from Brazil. And he was very poor, and he was in a very poor northeastern part of Brazil, as the Cardinal of Redcliffe. He says in his book, I quote Dom Helder Cameron, "Look, there are those who are born to sing, those who are born to write, those who are born to play soccer, and those who are born to be priests. I was born to be a priest. I started this at age 8, and certainly not because my parents put the idea in my head. My father was a Mason. My mother went to church once a year. I even remember that one day my father got frightened and said, 'My son, you're always saying you want to be a priest, but do you know what that means? A priest is someone who doesn't belong to himself, because he belongs to God and to people. Someone who must dispense only love and faith and charity.' And I said, 'I know. That's why I want to be a priest.'" Security means I'm secure in God's love. I'm His beloved. We know that self-esteem and self-respect and self-worth are invaluable to giving children. Jimmy Valvano, who is the North Carolina State basketball coach, would say after he won the championship in 1983, "My father gave me the greatest gift he could in the world. He believed in me. He believed in me." Our security is in God. It's not in our portfolio. It's not in our looks. It's not in our gifts. It's not in the Dow Jones. It's not in the next president. It's not even in the Pope. We have faith in the Pope. It's in God. In God is my security. In God I trust. We live in a very insecure world, friends, because we're not secure in God. Secondly, I believe serenity. In an age of movement, nothing is more critical than to have stillness, to have peace. Serenity. Can you be at peace with people who don't want to be at peace with you? I think you can. You can live on terms with enemies because you have shalom, harmony of relationship. There's a symphony that dances within your soul that you can get along with other people who are not congruent to your thinking or your way of acting. Serenity. If I'm not at peace with myself and I'm not at peace with God, I certainly can't be at peace with others. Psalm 43:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." We need to have at peace the still moment in our soul that we seek peace by the end of the day. Don't be at odds. Don't be angry with your spouse. Paul says, make amends. Bring restitution. Serenity. St. Catherine of Genoa says it this way: "When I eat or drink, move or stand still, speak or keep silent, sleep or awake, see, hear, and think, whether I'm in church or at home or in the street, in good health or bad health, dying or not dying, every hour of every moment of my life, I wish to be all in God." I saw a man today. I cover Swigley Hospital on Wednesdays and Fridays, so I spent about 4 hours there. I got certified in CPE training, being at Mercy Hospital before I came to St. Malachy's. When I came to St. Malachy's, Father Joe Mealy was the personnel director, and Father Reach Ryan had spent 23 years at Ohio Valley General Hospital, and they wanted somebody who was trained in hospital work. So they said, you can be the chaplain of Ohio Valley 7 days a week and be the pastor of St. Malachy's. Well, I didn't know what I was saying yes to, but I said yes. But I saw a man today, and he was had a heart attack, and 15 people worked on him in the hospital. And I went in to see him, and I put on the gown and all the gloves and mask. And he said, "Father, I'd like to go to confession." He said, "I'm glad I didn't die. I'm not sure I was ready." He said, "And you walked in the room. I want to get ready." Is peace the hallmark of your everyday? Do you prize it? Do you cherish it? Do you treasure it? Peace to all who enter this house. Do we have a peaceful posture? You know it's one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit, peace, but are we harbingers of peace? Do we cultivate peace? Peace in the home, peace in the church, peace in the world, peace in the neighborhood. Are we on a peace path? Thirdly, sanctity. Gandhi said, keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Your words positive because your words become your behaviors. Your behaviors positive because your behaviors become your habits. Your habits positive because your habits become your values. And your values positive because your values become your destiny. The Indian leader Gandhi said, a leader of nonviolence. God isn't asking us to do something insane to be a disciple. What he's asking us to do is very common sense. It makes sense. He's not asking us to do something that we're not capable of doing. It's right within our stratosphere. But when we sin, we are insane. And a person who is insanely insane keeps doing the same thing and expects different results. And they're going back to their same destructive patterns, ways of life. It's important, friends, that we come to a sense. Now, working on the psychiatric unit at Mercy Hospital, I would see signs up regularly. Eat well, sleep well, think well, and the day will be well. Sanity is what I'm expecting of somebody within the realm of what they can offer. They may not have the gift. They may not have the time. They may not have the energy. More and more volunteers are helping in my rectory at St. Joseph because the bloodline of the Catholic Church is volunteers. Now, I don't want to use that volunteers, activating their baptism. We're going to classes of new models of the priesthood. And when I was ordained, there was 620 priests 27 years ago, in 1988. Presently, there's 224 priests. In 5 years, there's going to be 150 priests, and in 10 years, there's going to be 100 priests. Are we going to do it the same way? It's insane. And all the young priests think we're going to be impersonal, anonymous, rovers, and there's not going to be any personal contact. That's insane. And I stood up at a meeting with all the priests the other day, and I said, when the priest starts looking like the size of the church, we all got a problem. God's asking us to use everything it possibly can and engage it, enkindle it, empower it, enable it. Fourth, sanctity. No one is suddenly made perfect. We know that Christianity takes practice, even more than a musical instrument. You have to die to be a slave of an instrument to master an instrument. We know that. And the mother of all learning is repetition. So too sanctity. Some of the things I think we need to do in today's society, we need good sleep, adequate rest. or we'll have a decrease of energy. Get to bed regularly, have reasonable time. Secondly, we need good food, nutritional values in what we eat, so it doesn't weigh us down. Our nourishment, the fuel that we take, should give us energy, should propel us. Exercise, we need exercise. At a bare minimum, we need to take a brisk walk. Because if we don't do regular physical activity, friends, we have a decrease of energy and we run the risk of having low-grade depression. The fall time is a good time to take a walk, to go outside, to go biking. Fourthly, we need leisure to help us in the joys and sorrows of life on a consistent basis. We need to take vacations. We need Sabbath moments. We need downtime. We need days off. I had lunch with the priest who we met in Coraopolis yesterday. And 3 weeks from now, I'm going to a Penguin game with the priest. We got to make structure. You got to orient. It just doesn't happen, friends, automatically. I don't want to work all my life. I want to give the church all I can possibly give, friends, but I don't want the pie of my life when my days are done. All he did was work, and Jack wasn't happy on any day. The first book I read when I went and studied philosophy at Duquesne was Joseph Pieper, a German philosopher's book written in the 60s, that leisure is the basis of the culture. Notice it's not selfies. Notice it's not Facebook. Notice it's not social media. Notice it's not sports. Leisure. Lighten up. Levity. Fifth, I think we need pacing. You know, in life, in the long stretch of life, if you don't stop and relax and enjoy where you're going, you don't increase your inner stamina. Lance, I call him Lance Armstrong. Lance, you want to raise your hand? Lance, why don't you stand up for us? I hope we're not embarrassing. Lance is a great bicyclist. He took all the priests and the deacons of our diocese on June 1st to the 6th to Washington, D.C. And Lance wasn't looked to racing to go like he could go at Lance Armstrong and win all the medals. Lance wanted us all to be successful. He changed our tires. He changed and oiled and lubed our chains. He made it a rewarding experience. And his wife, Noelle, she accompanied him. She made sure that we had enough bandages, and we had enough food, and we can do this. And each day we'd go 60, 65 miles. And you know, it was the pace. Father Mike went with us. And it was nice, and we had a great time. So I think in life we have to pace. It's how we're carrying the load. We can't be like Atlas carrying the whole world on our shoulders and it's crushing us. And everybody knows you can't get out from underneath all these tasks, all these pressures, all these stresses, because you become a highly combustible bottle of like a beverage, and you shake it up and your emotions are everywhere. You're not pacing well. We need good laughter, friends. It's medicine for our souls. Don't take yourself too seriously. You know, to improve your perspective of life, you need to lighten up. That laughter and levity is humor. When Father John and I took homiletics by Father Thomas Bird, he was from the Archbishop of Baltimore. He said, "You got 7 minutes, gentlemen, when you preach, to make people laugh, cry, and feel religious. And the more you make them laugh, cry, and feel religious, the closer they're going to feel God's presence." We need to, secondly, I think, have values. What's important to us? What's not important to us? Jesus says, where your heart is, there your treasure will be. What are our values? Our values should be guiding the compass of each day as we navigate through life. And if we don't have an inner compass, friends, then we're going to be a slave to everything in the world. And it's going to be like a windshield wiper. Wherever it's coming, if we don't know where we're going, anywhere will get us there. We need control. Be concerned of what you can control, what you can't control. We can't control the weather. St. Teresa of Avila says, don't talk about the weather. It's beyond our control. Self-appreciation. Do an inventory. What gifts has God given to you? How do you nurture them? How do you share them? Not in a compulsive way, but in a generous way. That's why I say you need to have low expectations and high hopes. To appreciate that God is working in your life marvelously every day of your life. Even when you're in valleys of darkness. Even when you're hitting the wall. And even when you don't have an answer. We need to have involvement, but not over-involvement. People sent me emails and said, Father Rich, I'm going to this tonight, I'm going to that tonight, I'm going to this tonight. There's so much on their plate. They're over-involved, they're over-committed. And sometimes we need to cut back. Sometimes we have to say no. Next, I think we need support groups in life. You know, psychologically healing friends who challenge us and support us and encourage us and teach us and make us laugh. There's support groups out there today. There's support groups when I go to Sewickley of everything. People with diabetes, people who have lost people to suicide, people with pregnancy, of Lamaze classes, all these beautiful support groups. They're marvelous. Prayer support groups. Next, I think we need some escapes. We need to run away and do things like read novels, take a break, go to the movies, take a walk, invest in a hobby, go fishing or cycling or yoga or Tai Chi or centering prayer. We need to escape and do something that's going to fulfill us. We need, I think, to be spontaneous. You know, if everything has to be planned, my yearly vacation is this time, all the time, I'm immovable. You know, you got to have some spontaneity, go with the flow. We can't be inflexible, my way or no other way. Be careful of negativity in life, friends. Why are negative comments in our lives like thunder and praise like a whisper? Don't exaggerate or exasperate the negative. It can contaminate a whole day or several days or a week and make you feel depressed. It's okay you made a mistake, but you're not a mistake. Okay, you messed up. Sometimes we mess up big time. Negative thinking does a great deal loss of energy. We need to stop it and free ourselves for new growth and new enjoyment for life. How do we do this? I think by striking a balance between stimulation in life and quiet time, between reflection and action, Martha and Mary, between work and leisure, between self-care and care of others, between self-improvement and patience, between future aspirations and present possible realities, between involvement and detachment. I find that critical as a pastor, friends. I can't go from meeting to meeting. I can't be there for all people at all times in all ways. But I do try to be personal. I do acknowledge time, 6 letters every day. People who have died, people who got married, people who got baptized. I want to make it personal. I don't want impersonal ministry. It helps for sanctity. Because I'm called to be their priest. 5, I think we need prayer. Prayer is important so it doesn't blind us of the vision of the world. That all the history of humanity is in the light of God, Thomas Merton says, and we need prayer. Listen to what St. John Vianney says. We must take great care never to do anything before having said our morning prayer. The devil once declared that if he could have the first moment of your day, he was sure to have the rest of your day. I like that. Archbishop Fulton Sheen, good friend of mine, Joe McCaffrey, we do a lot of things together. He started me on a holy hour when I was in the seminary, and I've maintained it my whole priesthood. Fulton Sheen called it, in his autobiography, Treasury and Clay, the hour of power. If you want to have power in your life, Praying out. Maybe we need, like the Lord, these own apostles said, Lord, teach us to pray. Jesus prayed in every situation, when he was joy-filled, when he was in agony, when he was alone at night, when he was on the mountain of a sacred place, when he was on the level plains of ordinary life. He prayed a lot. Mother Teresa said the secret of her discipleship is prayer. And we know in any AA program the power that only prayer brings victory to restoration, rehabilitation, and recovery. Because I've worked in these groups. I've ministered in these groups. If you want to know the 12 steps of AA, it's 12 steps of prayer. 6, I think we need solitude. Loneliness is the poverty of ourself. Solitude is the richness of ourself. Today, people's lives are overpacked suitcases. We're always busy. We're always stressed. We're always pressured. Always one more call, one more text, one more email, one more visit, one more task. Everything seems to be so undone and unfulfilling, and we're disappointed, and we have so many unmet expectations. What our souls are telling us is we need solitude. We're starving for solitude. I know it's not easy, friends, but Father Maloney's the Jesuit, great writer of prayer. He says we need time to be alone with the alone. Because in our solitude, we find the richness of ourselves. That's why I love hospital ministry, friends. Because all the defenses are down. They tell you what to wear. Here's what you eat. Your freedoms are restricted. You have to live in this environment, and all you have to do is come face to face with your own story, with wherever you're at on the journey. Don't wait for the hospital to make that happen, friends. We need to have solitude. And sometimes I have to tell people, you know, my schedule's already booked, and I have to put S on my schedule for solitude. Solitude to study. Solitude to read. 7, I think we need humility. Christian perfection consists in working heroically, praying heroically, and suffering heroically, says St. Anthony Mary Claret. You know, there's not much traffic on the highway of humility. A humble person walks arm in arm with others. They don't have a negative self-image or an inflated self-image. These are folks who stay low to the ground, under the radar. St. Augustine in his confession says, the hallmarks of discipleship are threefold: humility, humility, humility. All we do is are showboats of our trophies and achievements and honors and accolades and titles and positions and self-importance. A humble person knows they need God every day like a beggar. To know ourselves, we remain humble. Father Ron Rolheiser says, the first half of our lives are to struggle with sensuality, greed, and sexuality. The second half of our lives, we struggle with anger and forgiveness. Does that resonate with you? In humility. Nothing makes me humbler than listening to people's confession. Nothing makes me more humbler than going to confession. Lord, I need your mercy. I'm not perfect. I'm far from there. Humble means to be down on the earth, down on the soil, salt of the earth. Number 8, I think we need wisdom. Teresa of Avila says, when one truly reaches the highest degree of human maturity, one has only one question left. How can I be helpful? How can I be helpful? The fear of the Lord, holy reverence, timeless wisdom of the ages of doing God's will and following God's path that He set out for our lives is to forsake foolishness. to forsake selfishness, to forsake the greatest crucifixion of life, sin. Father John Powell said it this way: there's three ways to self-knowledge: to know yourself, to be yourself, and to forget yourself. To know yourself, to be yourself, and to forget yourself. Pope Francis says that we shouldn't have mirrors in our bathroom. We should smash our mirrors so that throughout the day we're always looking at others. We're not looking at our own vanity. Now, I'm not saying you want to do that, friends, but I said that's what Pope did. Okay, let me get 5 minutes and then we'll open up for questions. Is that fair enough? Or do you need a stretch break? Do you need to stand up, take a stretch break? Okay. Someone spoke for y'all. Relationships. St. Thomas Aquinas, I had to study lots of them, so I thought I'd give you one of his quotes. There's nothing on this earth more prized than to be a true friend. True friendship. A prophet friend helps us keep balance and openness in our lives. Who are our friends? Who are our cheerleaders? Who encourage us? Who accept us? Who give us feedbacks? Who give us energy? Who make us laugh? Friends are spiritual guides along the way. They listen to us. They're concerned about our growth and our best interests. They want us to enjoy everything God has given to us. Sometimes I have this fear when I get to heaven and the Lord said to me, you know, my only problem is you tried to be my friend all life, but did you enjoy everything, friends, in life that I gave you? Well, I just enjoyed a little bit, Lord. Friends, we got to cultivate friends. We have to nourish friends. Friends don't happen automatically. I'm going with a friend to the pit game tomorrow. I'm going to Masonic Village Friday night to eat with a couple who lived at St. Malachy's, who moved in there. I'm going Sunday night to listen to a friend, Tom Franzak, and I'm bringing people along with me, taking them to dinner. You see, friends, you got to have friends. Networks of, I'm not saying acquaintances. I'm not saying colleagues. I'm saying friendships. You just are with each other. There's friends that I call 3 in the morning to listen to my homily, and they do. 10, I think we need forgiveness. Matthew Kelly says, have your friends let you down? Have they turned their backs on you? Can you feel the pain of rejection? Imagine how Jesus felt. Our lives are a complexity, each one of us, of grace and sin, angels and demons, light and darkness. We need to name our sins, claim them, tame our own demons. We need to go into the inner desert of our lives. Oftentimes, friends, there is so much grandiosity in the world, in a world of selfies that are so self-preoccupied, so self-centered, so narcissistic. Get all the tattoos on my body because I can't see myself enough. I'm not anti-tattoo, but I can tell you from the book of Leviticus, there are biblical references. My brother, who's a dermatologist, is taking these off from people, and it's a process. Another is loneliness, the demon of restlessness. And we live in a lonely world where people feel unloved and excluded and outside the circle, pathologically desperate. I had a couple in my office recently, and a few months ago, the 35-year-old son had jumped off the McKees Rocks Bridge. And they're just coming to see me to give a morsel of hope to keep it together for another day. Huh? Unbridled sexuality, the demon of obsession, of addiction and lust and pornography in our world today. Oh, it's taken us so far off course. I said, Jesus loves you. Why do you need pornography? Paranoia, the demon of bitterness, anger, jealousy, cynicism, cold, mistrust, woundedness. Woundedness we take comfort in drugs or food or pornography or self-indulgent. I tell people if they work, I prescribe them. They don't work. They don't bring you serenity. They don't bring you sanity. They don't bring you security. They don't bring you sanctity. They don't bring you joy. Sometimes people enter life each day with joylessness all over their face. They don't bring calm. They're impatient. They're less than empathetic. They're carrying too much weight in their life. And lastly, friends, I think it's hard to be a Christian without gratitude. That's what the Eucharist tells us. The world has enough beautiful mountains, meadows, spectacular skies, serene lakes. It has beautiful lush forests, flowered fields, sandy beaches, and plenty of stars and the promise of a new sunrise and sunset every day. I think what the world needs more is people to appreciate it and to enjoy it. Deo gratias, thanks be to God. Thanksgiving is the heartbeat of being a Christian and the pulse of Catholic life. Daily Mass tells us that. May our lives reflect each day, thanks be to God that I live today. Had a funeral recently with a Presbyterian minister with me, and he said to me, "Do you get up for Mass every day? Don't you ever sleep in?" And I said, "No, that's not part of our tradition. Part of canon law is for the well-being and the spirituality of a priest's vitality, that offering the holy sacrifice of the Mass for his salvation and the flock entrusted to his care is pretty important." He says, "Well, don't you ever sometimes want a day off?" And I said, "Well, if I ever take a day off from giving thanks, I'm done. And the ultimate thanks is at the Lord's house, so that the Word of God can change us, that the Eucharist can challenge us to conversion, so that we can be who God created us to be, a holy people, a faithful people, a loving people." Pope Francis recently said, "We have the greatest love story the world has ever known. We need to share it with the world each day." Okay, so you've heard enough from me. Any comments, thoughts, observations, suggestions, things that resonate, something, challenges that you face, anything that anyone would like to share? Where this is an adult learning session, huh? We can learn from each other. Every word of my talk I have printed up for anyone who wants it. So don't worry if you didn't get it. But I wouldn't keep your attention if I gave you it all, because I've been a teacher long enough. So I just gave you a little bit of morsels. And I want you to take what has helped me in my life to stretch a little bit more spiritually. Don't let anything knock the winds. Divorce, being fired, breaking your leg, undercut, mistakes, sin. And I love the one line in the book that I put it in my handout, of Sirach chapter 33, verse 20. As long as you have breath in your body, don't let anyone live your life for you. Don't let your boss, your spouse, your grandchildren. You gotta live your own life, man, woman. You know, I find that comforting each day. I ain't living for Bishop Zubik, as much as I respect Bishop Zubik and love Bishop Zubik and obey Bishop Zubik. I'm living for those who I promised my life to. Christ's body, the church, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and unhealth, until death I breathe my last. I saw a girl today in the hospital, and 5 years ago she was in a fire. And all over her arms and all over her legs were skin grafts. And she said, "Father, the last 5 years of my life, the whole carpet of my life, has been pulled out under. And she said, I have a priest. He's an uncle. He's a priest. I said, oh, who is it? She said, Father Lakowitz. I says, oh, Father Mike Maranowski's parish. We buried him last Christmas. She said, what? He's dead? I said, yeah, he's dead. The problem in our world today, friends, that is so inundated with communication is that we lose touch with each other. And Thomas Merton believed the more in touch we are with God, the more in touch we are with ourselves, the more in touch we are with others. What was Vatican Council II for? To get the church in touch with the world, to read the signs of the times, to keep running the good race. I can't tell you how many people I see in counseling, in hospital visits, keep running the great race. Don't let obstacles defeat you, destroy you. Keep moving. Girl at lunch today at my parish. I buried her dad, 101 years of age. Her mom's 96. She's making the Thanksgiving meal this Thanksgiving after many years because she had to give most of her attention to her husband. She was married for 71 years. But she needs to keep moving. You can't die while you're alive. I think St. Irenaeus of Lyon said, the glory of God is revealed in a human being who's fully alive. So thank you for coming. I thank you for your presence. And if anyone would like the handout, the girls from my parish have them. And then there's a social afterward, right? Okay. Very good. God bless all of you.